Welcome everybody to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role-playing podcast made for people who would play devil's advocate with an eldritch horror. My name is Juan Santana, and joining me this evening, my usual co-host, the wonderful Misfit, but also, as Zoop is away gallivanting in PAX East, we have brought him back up in the form of Bunny and Michael Diamond. So, guys, thank you very much for coming along and helping us out.
Sure thing.
It's a pleasure.
All right. So, do you want to tell people about yourselves? Who shall go first?
Well,
Who's got a dice on hand?
I do.
I mean, I also do, Michael.
Oh, you should totally roll then.
Rollies.
I'm sorry. Are your dice in an egg?
Yeah, I 3D print and paint dragon eggs for people that I like. And so this is just an unpainted prototype one. It twists shut. We can talk about that later.
Yes, we will.
You know, Michael, hi, low.
I'm going to say low.
Damn it. Okay, I'll go first. Hi, I'm Bunny, aka Fire Ashes. I have the absolute pleasure of being in shows with Misfit that Michael has ran for the old ways. I've actually been in like double digits for stories for the old ways now. I've been in so many of their shows and it's been really awesome. That's been most of my experience with things like actual plays, but I've been playing tabletop games for 20 years. I was a professional storyteller for a living for 11 years. That was just not recorded. It was just in real life. But I have a lot of experience with TTRPGs, and I have a lot of experience on today's topic to a almost concerning level. So we will have a lot of time to have conversations about that. But I also am an online personality. You can find me as Fire Ashes on Twitch for a living nowadays, now that I tell other stories. So that's what I am. That's what I do. Michael, it's your turn.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a CIA experiment gone wrong. No, really. I'm head of the Old Ways Entertainment, which is partially a podcast and partially an AP stream. I don't consider myself a professional storyteller because I don't actually make money at it, but I do consider myself serious about stories. So I get the pleasure of playing with both Misfit and Bunny, which is fantastic. And we've been doing it since 2019. So,
I mean, that is absolutely amazing. We are so honored to have you on here with us. How's everyone doing? Let's start there. Let's catch up. How's everybody's gaming week been?
I was in a game. I ran a game last night of Savage Worlds. So I'm play testing more of a setting rather than a system. So I'm writing a fantasy world at this moment, and so I have sort of captured my home group and said, "You're going to help me write this world in a way by just sort of stumbling along and seeing what they find." I brought up the broad brushstrokes, and I did that after being in Vegas for a week. So it was Sunday morning here with you is going to be fantastic.
That's fantastic. I mean, recently I have kind of started delving into Savage Worlds. I really enjoy the system. I think it gives me the sort of level of freedom that I need in comparison to other things that I've played previously. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with Savage Worlds. And this is your own system. Is this with an eye to publish, or?
Yeah, I think the it'll actually, as far as the setting goes, it would be published at some point in the future, and it's going to be probably setting or system agnostic. I don't want to sort of chain it down to any one specific system because I feel like it's a broader availability then for people just to look at it and say, here's how you would, approach this sort of space depending upon what, because I'm planning on running it in a couple of different systems, including probably Pathfinder 2 and Daggerheart and a bunch of other, just to test it out, the Cypher system, stuff like that.
Nice. Anybody else had any decent gaming experience this week?
I actually did a Prelude recording yesterday, which was super fun. Can't really spill the beans on that one, but it was fun. I only cried a little.
Nice. My weekend gaming definitely started off with a bang and then sort of went to a whimper. I just got back from Game Storm, which is a gaming convention here in Portland, and I did a lot of LARPing, including with Chris Grace, which was very fun. And we made up a tabletop game at the end of the weekend, like we always do. And I got to play Fist for the first time, which is actually way more fun than I thought it was going to be. That's not usually my vibe, where you're just burning through character sheets over and over again. And a whole character sheet is just 3 dice rolls, and then you have your entire character made. But I got to be a saleswoman made out of goo, and that actually turned out to be pretty cool.
Nice.
So I rolled ooze and charm and deal maker, and that was my entire character sheet. And I'm like, oh, I can work with this. And so I got to do a lot of fun gaming stuff last weekend, and now I'm the vice chair of that convention, and so I have a lot of work on my plate. Thank you. And otherwise, I'm working on casting some playtesting stuff right now, because I have secrets as well, Michael.
I mean, I will, before the episode is over, I will reveal something that we're going to do. I made that decision today. So
Is this an exclusive?
It will be an exclusive, yes, here.
Ooh.
I think this has to be like the first exclusive we've had on this show. So I am incredibly excited. And I think that's the issue with when you kind of collaborate with people who do a lot of APs, because a lot of the times it's, I did something really cool. Can't fucking talk about it though.
My life. What's up?
Yeah.
That Misfit, every fucking week she's got some sort of NDA bullshit signed, and it's like, oh, I did something amazing, but fuck you guys.
Yes,
I can't really talk about it. You're gonna have to wait a while. Sorry and
I
shit.
will absolutely take credit for some of those.
Yeah, some of those are directly Michael's fault. So.
Yeah. Guilty.
No, that's fair enough, and you know we're here for it. So the last time we were talking about creating characters and establishing roleplay and improving our own roleplay, as well as encouraging roleplay at the table. And Misfit came up with a topic that I thought we could explore a bit more about this week, and that is character bleed. So I think I'm going to throw it over directly to Misfit to kind of introduce the topic and tell us what character bleed is.
Thanks so much. I love being put on the spot like that.
I know.
You know, okay, not to derail everything, but totally to derail everything. Have you ever seen a picture of a thresher shark? Because that's me. Like, anytime someone calls on me, anytime I have to do an introduction of myself, I'm just like, what?
Not to derail things further, but on that topic, did you see there was a study the other day about how sharks have friends?
Yep.
So, Misfit, I'll just remind you that you have friends right now, dear Thrasher Shark, but please be on the spot and introduce the topic.
Don't worry about derailing this. We derail all the time.
We derail all the time.
It's practically our brand at this point, because I'm now Googling Thresher Shark.
Fair.
They're so cute. They have these little snub noses. Oh, I love them. Anyway, hi. Character bleed is a serious thing. And so most people think character bleed is just like a negative, like you're feeling all of your character's emotions. But I also think it can be a positive thing where, like, if you had a really good session and you rolled really well and you got to do some dope things with your character, that joy that you feel, that rush, is also under the character bleed tent, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't know. But, like, in my opinion, all of that kind of falls under the character bleed umbrella. Now, with that said, character bleed is typically when you feel your character's emotions and they come out in your everyday life. So, like, I've left recordings sobbing. I have left tables sobbing. I have also left tables like bouncing off the walls because I'm so excited and so hypey for what happened. Character bleed
Preach.
in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
I mean, I don't think I have necessarily experienced it maybe as strongly or as frequently, as I'm mostly a GM. But I will say that I have experienced it. I have walked away from a table pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not pissed off with any sort of meta sort of occurrence. It is pissed off because something in the game, in the narrative, has pissed me off. And I've walked away going, I'm going to fucking kill that guy. And it's, it is about an NPC, or it is about something that has happened in the game. So I can understand that. But obviously with you guys being more, probably more active as characters than myself, what sort of things do you maybe need to look out for? What sort of pitfalls can you encounter?
I mean, I played the same mage character for about 5 years real time. And in her story, she was the only one who lived the whole time. Her friends came and went, but she was the only one that was still alive that long. And she had an eidetic memory, so I kept notebooks playing her, so I didn't forget anything because I have a terrible memory. And so I had like 7 full notebooks as her, like her diaries from the travels. And it became so many notebooks that I'd have to go back and reference that I made a website that was a blog of hers in characters her with her character notes and then her world notes from her studying the world that she lived in, so that I could cross-reference faster when she had to recall something for her memory. I could like search function it instead of be like, hold on, I think this is this journal. Oh God, crap. It was very hard to not feel things for her or as her by that many years of playing her every single Sunday for sometimes as many as like 8 to 10 hours a day. It was very hard to not feel Shelia in like my soul. And so yeah, character bleed is definitely a trap that I have fallen into. It was a beautiful honeyed trap and I just went right into it and I got snuggly until it hurt very much later. But it also meant that when she had to have big in character moments that were very powerful, I had something to channel from. So we did a lot of great RP in that game. And there are definitely characters where I've had to try to tap into that since then that don't hit the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're like a character for a day, it doesn't hit the same as like that character that was similar, but for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
Michael, is there a character that you think that had the most like character bleed effect on you before?
Yeah, so I'll talk about a LARP character. I have the similar issue with Juan, which is I don't have a deep recent cadre of PCs to talk about because as head of the show, I do a whole lot of running the games, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. Certainly. We had a LARP here in my hometown, which began ostensibly as a Vampire the Masquerade LARP, as many LARPs do. And then the ST crew that took it over was like, hey, listen, let's just make this a WAD LARP. Let's open the books to everything that's out there. And let's let in changelings and werewolves and hunters. Oh my. And so I played a Fianna werewolf, and which amongst the tribe, if you're not werewolf friendly or folks that come from Celtic lands, historically speaking, and I played that character for several years. And in conjunction with the sort of handwritten beta rules for Mage the Ascension in LARP, which some of our STs created, there was a solution one night that had to be made, and the rote, the ritual, etc., required the pelt of a Fianna werewolf to seal a rift in the deep umbra. and I had to take a character I'd played for 3 years, and in front of like 20 or 30 people, I had to sacrifice them to save this space. And it was really tough on me emotionally. Other people were crying because like they had all this invested in time and stuff like that. And I remember being driven back to the university that my girlfriend at the time was staying at, and I was an absolute mess. I was a wreck in the car. I didn't do anything the rest of the night. I had friends that were like calling and checking on me, and I had to like shut my phone off because I just couldn't handle it. Because I think when you invest that much in a character and you talk about performatively sacrificing them, there's a ton of just like powerful emotions that go into that. And for me, the bleed over wasn't something I could ignore. I couldn't approach that coldly.
Yeah.
So
I've had similar so like, oh, it's killing me. The episodes haven't come out yet, but Aster has a serious moment where she has to make a really big hard decision, and that episode and like coming out of that, I'm so glad that we record bi-weekly for that game, because I needed that full almost 2 weeks to come down from what had happened. So like I understand how hard that character bleed is and how much emotion goes into it. How did you deal with it? Because like I did art about it.
I did a
Oh.
lot of art about Shelia.
No, I
Did a
did
lot of
the normal male thing, which is to do nothing at all.
Not even like
Yeah.
an angsty playlist on the car ride home and just like
Yeah,
white
like
knuckle
do
gripping.
something,
Just
get those
to be perfectly
emotions
honest with you,
out.
I listened to whatever she had playing at the time, and I smoked a lot of cigarettes, and then I went to bed.
That's
Well, a lot of
Not-
nicotine about it. Got it.
Yes,
You
correct.
nicotined
That's the
about
term.
it. Cool,
I don't
great.
smoke anymore, and I haven't for years. But yeah, that was how I sort of dealt with it. I know how I dealt with it. I became more of a storyteller, so I wouldn't have to deal with bleed moments. That's what it is. It was a trauma response.
Oh, that explains a lot of the things I've been in that you ran. Yeah, that
That
makes
explains
sense. That explains
lot,
so much that
actually.
this is how you process your trauma, is inflicting trauma upon me and others instead. Got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
More than
this character moment that you had, this sacrifice, was it a decision that you kind of reached, or was it something that you felt you were more compelled to do? Because I mean, we've all kind of played characters where you've got to a point and it's like, right, I think this character has reached its climax. They've reached a point now where I've got no more stories to tell. So was it you in a way to trying to retire the character, or was it something out of necessity that kind of had to happen?
No, I think it was a really smart storyteller who knew my personality and knew my playstyle and baited me.
Yeah.
And I fell for it. Yep.
I was going to say, it sounds like you fell into a
Hook,
trap
line, and
also.
sinker.
You bet. After session 2, what I find out the next week when I come back just to hang out and be around the folks is, and keep in mind that all the storytellers are good friends of mine at the time. One of them comes up to me and says, you could have totally gotten around this by doing this, this, and this, but you just sort of walked right into it. So, and so that's pretty tough too to accept.
Yeah.
About that, but they do credit to them for knowing the player and being able to give the player something that they would snatch. That's what you want as a storyteller, to say, I know my players, here's how I get them.
Yeah.
But that's like such a cool moment too. Like I know it's traumatic and it hurts and whatnot, but like sometimes the noble sacrifice of a character can be like rewarding in itself.
Yeah. It is. Sorry, please.
No, I was just going to say, once I was in a LARP that was a Serenity, like Firefly LARP. And I played a character named Casey Matthews. She was a sure shot. She was like one of the best shots on the whole station. I remember this in my brain because somebody wrote a song about her later. But she did try to self-sacrifice for the entire space station she was on. And it was a blaze of glory. And I barely made it out alive. And a musician who I LARPed with wrote a song about that moment and then sent it to me. And I was like, I've never had this happen before.
That's cool.
I don't know what to do with my body. This is the coolest thing. But I was so ready for her to die for everybody. Like sometimes you can be so invested in a character and so attached and like all in and have those moments of what this character would do. It will not be the best thing for the character. It will not necessarily be a thing that the character is going to live through, and you know that going in, but it is what the character would do. And because you are all in on that character, you're going to do the right thing by that character and for the story and not for yourself as a player. And you're going to dive headfirst into that self-sacrificey situation or to defuse the bomb because you might know how or whatever the thing is. You are going to go all in knowing this might be the end of that character and I just have to accept that. Or like Michael did, this is intentionally the end of this character, but it's what this character would do and probably would not live looking at their self in the mirror anymore if they chose not to do it. So
am I the only one that spent, when I do play a character, I spend a shocking amount of time thinking how I'm going to sacrifice them?
no, I've done that before. It's very specific characters. So
Yeah,
I
it
try
depends
not
on
to
the
do
character. So
Even,
like,
even characters I like is like, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And then that situation never presents itself.
Was that like the thing where like you go into the shower and you have conversations with yourself that'll actually never take place, but you just walk through them mentally?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're mentally preparing yourself for not necessarily the worst case scenario, but you're preparing yourself to shoulder some emotional baggage.
I did that a lot with that mage that I had all the journals and stuff for. She was a life mage who was a caregiver amongst other things, and she like physically could not handle people being hurt around her, even if they were the bad guys. And she was just stacked to not be in this world, this very feudalist, violent world that she was in. And so there were times where I was prepared for so many scenarios. I tried to sacrifice her to so many causes just to like make sure that they were handled the way that she would. And I'm like, oh God, this might be it. And she'd always live through them. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be, I took that pain and doubled it for the next time. Cool. Great. And I would just keep going through that cycle. And I think it's going to be that way with our vampire series for the old ways when we revisit Emerenzia and the like. I've backstocked a lot of pain for her for the future.
Oh, good. Me too.
God. I love Emerenzia though so much. She's one of my favorite characters I've gotten to be for the old ways so far. And her muse, her inspiration, her sire, the person who's like everything to her, is now in a different country, and I'm not going to see her for who knows how long, maybe a century, and she's just reeling. But my Toreador vampire Emerenzia is just loaded up on pain as a powder keg for later. But she also
Toreadors. My Toreador Ophelia is also loaded up on the pain train. And like I feel a lot through that character, but I also kind of put a lot of my own personal experiences into her. And like she's a lot.
What is
That's
it
a
about
character
vampire
that I
does
cry.
that, do you think? Do you think that there's a thing specific to vampire? Is it because of the nature of the game?
Yeah, I think because it is designed to be personal horror and it is designed to highlight aspects of one's personality. And really what vampire did for me was it made me realize like, and I learned this through Aster specifically, is everybody is monsters. You don't necessarily have to have a monster inside you to be a monster. And I think vampire kind of highlights that in a very beautiful sort of way. Like, yes, you are playing a monster, but you're also just making decisions that like people would make, that you would make.
Yeah. I've never played any World of Darkness games across the board, but it's something that I do kind of see with World of Darkness players.
We're all in on that bleed.
mainlining it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so Michael did bring up the system. Is it a system, not specific thing, but does the system help? Because the only contrast I can perhaps provide is Delta Green, which also has a psychological element, but the countless times that I've been a handler for Delta Green, I haven't seen that sort of level of character bleed.
Oh, well, then we got to talk about how you're stepping on their bonds, right?
They don't give a shit. As players, they don't give a shit about their bonds.
See, I always care about my bonds.
Yeah, that could be a character disconnect, a player disconnect then. So I think that players who are, maybe players of Vampire are more, or World of Darkness in general, are more keyed in emotionally, and they want that experience. They go after it. Like I have a player here who was in our race story, and that story was full of just horribly harmful emotional damage. And it's like, death isn't the end of it either. You're going to get damaged in the afterlife too. And it takes the right player to connect with those emotions. And so if you're not experiencing bleed and you're sort of wondering like, what the fuck are you all talking about? It could be very much that the player base is just not open to it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, the Delta Green players that I have that played regularly on the old ways, some of them experience those things because they get deeply invested into these characters. And we see all sorts of stuff, whether it be anger, whether it be emotional attachment to other agents, because you've all been through some really fucked up shit together. Lots of that stuff is possible, but it takes the players to be able to deliver that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've found, because like, as an example, we are just about to start the last chapter of Impossible Landscapes.
Nice.
And I can count on one hand the amount of times they've actually projected.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be sobbing. No. Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the only times they ever really project is if they take enough SAM damage to break, or if they take enough to cause temporary insanity.
Well,
other than that, they'll just, okay.
Yeah, and in IL too, when you're talking about being in certain spaces during that, like, it doesn't matter how much sand you lose, it doesn't matter how many breaking points you go through, because the character's not technically affected by it until they're out of those spaces, and so that makes it tough. Because veteran Delta Green players are like, oh, I'm going to have a breaking point, here's my breakdown, and the handler goes, no, you're fine, keep going. What do you mean keep going? Oh, keep going, you're fine. How? That's fine, don't worry about it. And that can really be off-putting a little bit when people are expecting to have an emotional cliff to fall over, and then they don't.
Yeah. I think that maybe both sides of this are touching on something that is true to me in my experience, which is, I think certain systems definitely help with this situation, right? Like, I think certain ones are set up to be more keyed into your players in specific kinds of ways. I have found that with like D&D specifically, D&D players tend to do this less because they're more like, a lot of the player base is a little bit more like combat focused, crunchy. I've found that with riffs also, a lot of the people who really love riffs are like a little more into the crunch and a little less into the narrative a lot of the time, not always. And so it kind of depends on the players you're playing with also, right? It depends on, are they more into the system and the crunch of it all, or are they more narrative players in general? But I definitely think it's a mixture of the two. I think it's a mixture of the people that you're playing with and the system and how much it makes you actually think about that side of your character. And I think a lot of the really narrative driven, like, lore hounds that really want to be invested in everything and will get invested in their characters in that way tend to be leaning more towards the systems that encourage that kind of connection with the world and the characters in it. So whether it's Vampire or any World of Darkness, in my opinion, all of World of Darkness is holding facets of humanity under a magnifying glass and seeing which burn under the sunlight fastest. But also, like Delta Green, it depends on the players. Exalted depending on how you step on people's intimacies, it can be very brutal. But also, it can also be like a fun little crunchy game where you're just killing inquisitors and waiting for the wild hunt, and we'll see what happens. So it really just kind of depends on who you're playing with and how you structure your game, I think.
Yeah,
Personally.
I completely agree with that. There are definitely systems like when I sit down to play like D20 systems like D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, etc. Starfinder less for whatever reason. I get very emotionally connected to those characters.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe it's because my deep love of sci-fi. I don't know. But like very specifically like fantasy games, I do not experience bleed much. Like I'm a person and I have to be aware of this for myself. Like I am someone who experiences bleed very easily. Like it is like a second state for me almost. But like in fantasy systems, I just don't have it as strongly, and I've never been able to figure out why. I think it's because for me, I can suspend reality. Like, oh, I am playing a fantasy game. Like I'm a goat person. Like I'm a satyr. And like I can kind of just be like, oh, well, none of this is really real. None of this really affects me. And like, so I have that like block in my brain. So I don't experience it as hard as I would with like any of the World of Darkness systems. Like, I can't tell you how many times I have cried over Heather. I can't tell you how, like, I have walked away from several recordings of that game and being like, well, I'm going to go cry now.
Yeah. I have made our entire listener base concerned about me crying in character before, but that actually was me turning it on and off as like an actor brain thing and not actual bleed. And they're just like, oh my God, is she all right? Is everything going to be okay? Michael can attest. There was panic in the streets. I was just like, I am also an actor and I've done a lot of acting in my life, and I tapped into emotions from other characters for that moment, and it's fine. I have an emotional well that I pulled from, and then I turned it off.
Sometimes, like,
oh, absolutely,
when you have those big character emotions and you tap into some like another emotion that you have attached to that, and then like you kind of cry it out, and you're like, oh, I'm good actually. Like I'm great.
yeah. I love that kind of thing, and I will say, like, sometimes I can pull from like the emotional bleed from other characters that I've just banked for later. I'm like,
I can't too.
It's my like portable battery bank charger that I just have, and I'm like, oh, let me just plug my crying cell in. Hold on, okay, I got this. I just
so like on the reverse, I'm genuinely curious. On the reverse side of this, is there like an NPC or something that has just stuck with you? Because I also think that falls under the character bleed umbrella, is like that one NPC that becomes like your blurbo. Does anyone have that? I don't run enough games to wave in this.
I have a few.
I'm trying to think. I'll get back to you, because you know when you've got something on the tip of your tongue?
Ugh, my life.
Yeah. So I would say, just from the storyteller's chair, there are certain NPCs that fit me well. And so when they're presented in games and I can look at them and sort of look at their mental makeup, and I go, yeah, I can play that. Or I can effectively deliver this sort of mentality to the table. And then I will begin to look forward to scenes where, like, oh, this NPC is going to show up and this will be fun for me. This specific NPC is interesting, or I find their viewpoint interesting, or what they're going to pose to the characters in this scene is going to be sort of challenging to deal with, or the groan. So, like, I'll give you a Call of Cthulhu example. So in our Masks of Nyarlathotep game, one of the characters had a very twisted family history of sorcery, and it had driven their mother into an asylum, and had driven their father essentially into another world. he had learned way too much and had found himself, beyond the wall of sleep, just sort of out in the other world. And he learned these spells through a gentleman named Montgomery Crompton. And Crompton had a very specific vocal gate that I brought out for a couple of scenes. And he appears a couple of times in the show. And then there was this long gulf of episodes. And then they go to this space where the character's trying to pull back their father from the other world. And, the character's doing all this ritual work and hoping and praying. And this is, of course, away from the entirety of Mask's proper plot. This is the character going off on their own thread and doing things without the other investigators, right? Which is just great. And they pull back their father close enough, and they think they have him, and then they're on recording. I'm sitting, this is done in the studio, so I'm sitting next to the player who's doing it. I turned, and they see my face change, and they hear my voice change. And the player turned to me and she went, "That's Crompton." She could tell by how I was presenting the character. And the player gets flushed, like angry in a second, because she knows this person's she knows that this NPC is the one who tortured and basically pushed her father to this, just endless sorcery route. And then she got the pleasure of killing him, which was very cathartic for the player, and probably
I love some good character revenge.
For me, one that did stand out was the big bad I had in my Pathfinder 2nd Edition game. I'd created a character who was a behind-the-scenes manipulator. So he was the ultimate big bad of the campaign, but he would show up and he would help guide the party because it was in his interest that they succeeded. He needed them to defeat what they thought were the big bads. And I thoroughly enjoyed that because there was also the rush of, are they going to find this out?
Mm-hmm.
Are they gonna rumble me? Are they gonna kind of figure out what I'm actually planning? And I'm not gonna lie, they came close more than one occasion, but then just happened to go in a different direction. And I just felt that rush of, oh shit, that was close.
I was going to say before, as somebody who's watched Michael basically shape change into a different person to be a specific NPC, like he shifts and his bones move, like he changes.
Yeah, he'll shift in his seat
physically.
And
he'll
lean
shift
forward.
His posture will change. The way his jaw is set is he'll shift his jaw and his voice will be different. And it's oh, there was a ripple of something under all of the Michael suit just now. I don't like this. Even when it's a good character, I'm oh no.
Thank you. I take this as a compliment, of course.
Oh, it's very good. Yeah. And it's a little concerning. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. Do characters have mannerisms? Because, I know my girl Ophelia, she's got some mannerisms.
So when I was doing my professional storytelling gig for a while, one of the groups that would pay me for this custom world, I got paid to create the whole world, and then weekly sessions, and then also a per head fee. So however many players actually showed up to that game, I would get paid for that also, in addition to the prep work for that week and having built this world for them. And one of these was for children. A big group of families was paying me to create this world for their kids to play in and help them with all their characters and do all these things and make a bunch of quests specific to each kid, or maybe combining them so that they could work with another kid that they weren't great at problem solving with yet, and find ways to creatively help them build problem solving skills, both individually and as teams of very different personalities. And it was a very, very fun job. But one of the NPCs that I got to be for them regularly for the 4 years I ran for the same kids was I would also sort of shift a bit, but I remember, let's see, it was a little bit was a little bit of a gnome bookseller, and so it talked a little like this, sort of out of the side of her mouth. And she always was a little bit hunched because she had to like have her stuff nearby so that she could reach every single thing in her cart all the time. And she would just like dig through the things in the bag behind her and shift them out. And I just loved her so much. And I think, oh, her name was Dewdrop, and she just collected everything like dew on the leaves in the morning, and she was so good, and I loved her so much. And all the kids were always like, did Dewdrop beat us to this town? I'm like, Dewdrop is everywhere. What do you mean? And I did love her a lot. She would always have like some little thing if they had the money for it. And sometimes she'd be like, oh, it took you that long to get to this town from the last place we saw each other? Did you not just take the mountain pass labeled with the sign to get to this town? And as they've like fought their way through like a gauntlet of things by going the long way through a desert, and they're like, oh, there was a mountain pass. Right. You gave us a world map and we chose the way that looked coolest. And I'm like, and sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you gotta do that. But I found gossip on the way. Do you want to know where the vampires are living? And I loved her so much. But so yeah, there's certainly characters that stick in my head and had posture and had ways that they speak that sort of live in different parts of your vocal mechanics, right?
Yeah, like Ophelia, she's got these like this sort of big puff of hair. She kind of like does this and like uses her hair as a whole way to express herself without ever actually saying words. And I tend to do that. Like when I'm playing her, I tend to have those just mannerisms, or like she's a very flirty person. So like I tend to be, when I'm playing her, like have flirtier mannerisms or like do these cutesy sort of things. And that is unique to her because like when I play Aster, Aster's very like, she's a tough girl. So she's like, I'm okay with sitting in the back. I'm okay. I'm gonna light your car on fire. Like, and you're never gonna see it coming. It's gonna be great. Like,
so here's a question, because the three of you are very much into the AP space, and you've obviously got a lot of people who tune in and consume the sort of stories that you put out. Have you ever encountered a kind of character bleed, but from your listeners? You know, does what you do in the stories and in the games that you kind of make public, do you have a feedback from listeners about, oh, what this character did really pissed me off?
Yes.
Or I'm so upset. And
that is pretty much all that is what listeners do. I think that is how they engage.
I think if you're doing it right, yes, you're getting that sort of feedback. And I think
For
again,
sure.
I would say towards more to our narrative games that we played on the old ways. It very much is. We have one amazing listener who will give you episode by episode breakdown of what happened, quotes, etc., his feelings on things. It's great. It's a very rewarding portion. So I would just say, as an addendum, a sort of side track to this, just a quick thing is, if you are watching or listening to an AP, feedback is one of the most important things that you can give the players and the storyteller. Because knowing that someone has been impacted positively or negatively by your story means that we connected with the audience.
Yeah.
Right. Like one of my favorite bits of feedback that I've ever gotten about Aster is someone straight up told me that Aster makes them feel more confident.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to cry. I'm going to sob now. Key things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say it absolutely happens. And I think that that's what we're going for. Like if you come into, I don't know how many times when we were playing Vampire previously, people would come into the channel for feedback and you would say, I fucking hate this person. I can't stand good. I don't want you to. I want you to hate them. Yeah. Because I want the emotional response from you, because it means that I've got you bought in.
Mm-hmm. It's just good storytelling. If a character can evoke an emotion out of a listener, you're doing something right. It's the same with like any sort of media. If you're reading a book or watching a movie or a TV show or whatever, if a character evokes an emotion from you, like that creator is doing a good job. And not all characters are meant to be liked. Some characters are meant to be disliked.
Oh yeah, the one I played yesterday.
God, fuck him.
Michael is capable. I want to say this really quick. Michael, we've talked a lot about how he ripples and shapeshifts into all sorts of nasty things that make us feel pain. But also, Michael is capable of really lovely characters and fantastic people that you want to see more of.
Yeah.
And our community for the old ways, they lap up any moment, and I use that word specifically. They lap up any moment with a certain short king from our vampire game.
Yeah. Well, and listeners shortly will get to meet in our mage game. They'll get to meet Thomas, and as they interact, I think more with Thomas in our story, they're going to like him too. So yeah, I think that's about range. You can't always, because every NPC that the characters interact with can't be a complete asshole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, they won't interact with NPCs after a while because, like, okay, well, this person's a jerk, and I just know it. So
Feel it in my bones.
So now that we've kind of discussed character bleed and how it can happen and the sort of the intensity that you can feel through these characters that you play, what are some methods that you would recommend for our listeners to do in order to kind of ground themselves after a session?
I do art about it. I journal about it.
Okay.
I have to take that sort of pent up energy and get it out of me. So like I tend to either write, in Aster's case, like I write in her journal, or in Heather's case, I do art. And like that's not to say Aster's had some moments where I've had to do art about it. Like the big moment for her that's coming up soon really messed me up. Like it messed me up so much, so the next time we went into that recording session and we were going over our like, so vampire, they have your ambitions and desires, and we were going over those, and my ST was like, you didn't change yours. And I was like, dude, do you understand the headspace that I have been in for the last fucking week? No. Okay, cool, great. Fuck right off. Like, I was so no nonsense about it. And Ty was like, oh, do we need to like talk about this? Like, are you okay? And I was like, I am now, but at the time, no, I was not okay. And he was like, oh, I had no idea. I feel really bad. And I was like, Ty, you were not the person that I reached out to when I was not feeling okay. And that's not on you. That's on me. And this is my biggest advice. If you do feel that deeply about something, talk to the person who's actually telling the story.
That's good. That's some solid advice.
Yeah. And like that was a big learning point for me. And like Ty as storyteller and player he was like, no, I want to know about these things because like now I feel bad. I feel like I pushed you too far. And I was like, you didn't. I was like, I fully signed up for this. I knew what I was getting into when I joined this game. I knew what I was getting into coming into this session. I was like, but no, I didn't reach out to you because I thought I could handle it on my own, and I couldn't. So I ended up reaching out to my friend who's in that game, and like we had a big old talk about it. But he was like, next time, please come to me. Like, I need to know these things. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I fucked up.
Any more advice from anyone that...
I mean, I agree with if you like making art or journaling or anything, that those are great. I think that grounding exercises in general are something good to just have in your back pocket as like a person, not necessarily even as a role player. So, you know, explore grounding exercises that might work for you and your brain, is just advice of mine, human to human. Well, cryptid to humanoid. And I think for me, it's always kind of dependent on the character and what kind of bleed I'm trying to come back from. So if there are characters where it's been like, well, I'm going to go for a drive and sing really loudly along with my radio while, just cruising along the river. And that's worked. Sometimes it's like, wow, I'm going to make some really intense art about this thing. Nice. And sometimes it's been like, oh my God, Michael, why would you do this to us? That was really beautiful. How dare you? I love you, but also how dare you? And sometimes it's just me kind of thinking about the moments I'm proudest of with those characters. Especially if I just sacrifice the character, thinking about like the moments I was the proudest of and like what great stories I told with that character and sort of just reminiscing and sort of packing that away. But like, I have thought about it again and now I'm going to put it in this little box. Not to like bottle it up, but just sort of like wow, those were some really great memories and we don't need those right at the front and center anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say that I would completely agree with the idea of learning personal grounding techniques. It's a real thing. It can super, super, super ground you and make sure that the emotions that you're feeling don't overflow into other people, which is sort of the big concern. People who have not been a part of what you've been a part of emotionally and suddenly you're interacting with them.
Mm-hmm.
I love, although I don't get to do it a lot because of some of the times I record in, I love post-recording just relaxing with the people who are in the room and using that, because that for me is sort of like a post-movie watching thing where like you go out of the theater and you sit and talk for a second. I like that too, because it allows you to be in the same space that you were with those people emotionally and can sort of feel like a normalcy return to your life. And the other go-to for me is like simple, like go have something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Food will ground you. It'll force your body to do
after
things.
game cereal ritual.
Hey, it works. And it's good cereal. And then I'm like, okay, I'm spent now, and I've had a slice of comfort, and now I am ready for bed.
You bring up something really important. I think that as storytellers, regardless of system, that checking in with our players afterwards, it doesn't have to be this big like, oh, all the emotions, but it can just be like, hey, that was a really great session. How did people feel about it? Any feedback on anything? Anybody want to talk about anything that happened today?
Yep.
Anybody want to talk about things you're hoping to do next week? And then you just like, if somebody has something like this that they want to bring up, they can. But you can also just yap a little bit and be done.
I was definitely like the moment with Aster, I was in such a weird space that like I left the recording. Usually we sit and we'll like do XP and we'll do our RPXP, and like I stayed through all of that because how are you supposed to get your XP if you don't? But like everyone hung out afterwards and was yapping, and I was like, I gotta go. I need to just go because I was feeling so many emotions that like I couldn't process what everyone else was saying. Like the words became like the fucking
the adults from Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah.
100%. So I was like, I gotta go. And like I literally sat on my floor for a bit after that and just sort of like let myself feel whatever I was feeling. And that's important. Let yourself do that. Let yourself have those moments where you just let the emotion flow through you.
Oh, Misfit, the way that I have slid out of my chair under my desk and just left myself there before.
I've done it.
Like, time out.
Yes, I have done that too.
I have found with the old ways, I mostly journal or do art about it though. Like for Ivy, my Old Gods of Appalachia character from that short run series. I wish I played more Ivy. I want Ivy in my life. I have like a whole field forager's guide that looks like it's from the 1800s that I made about her.
That's awesome.
I have letters that I've written as my character Yvonne from Silver Screams, and like notes and journals about things that she was feeling or communiques that she would have sent to her maybe girlfriend. Listen to the story.
Story plug.
But no, I have done different kinds of projects depending on the character to sort of get all that excess out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I do believe that's another thing that we have actually expertly tackled on this show. We just, it happened. We just do it every week in, week out. But that is about all we've got time for this evening. I want to start by saying thank you to the Dungeon Maestro for the use of our theme tune, all that jazz. Please go to their YouTube channel and check out all their amazing work. They are absolutely fantastic. I also want to say thank you to my wonderful co-hosts this evening, Misfit, Bunny, and Michael, and hand it over to you guys because now is where you get to just talk about what's going on and plug anything that you would like to plug. Who wants to go first?
I'll go
rolling
first.
dice again?
No, I don't think we need to roll dice.
No, Michael goes first because I went first earlier.
That's correct. So would you like your exclusive now?
Yes.
We would love our exclusive.
Yes. Okay,
so wait, I'm gonna 1 second. I'm just marking this because we might be clipping it. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So in the very near future, we're going to be returning to the world of Vampire the Masquerade. We will be doing so in the setting of Chicago, and we will be bringing you some rather messy lives and seeing what they get up to as things continue to go bump in the night. So we'll be back playing Vampire very shortly.
Fantastic. You heard it here first. That is amazing. And I'm sure it's going to be just as fantastic as everything else that you guys put out.
Thank you.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, for me, you can find me over at the Old Ways. We are Old Ways basically on every social media platform. On some of the things, you'll find us under the Old Ways podcast, but that's just sort of a naming convention thing. We do more than podcasts. We do APs as well, including live events. And so in the near future, depending upon when this episode's coming out, we'll be at some conventions doing some live panels and probably some live recorded play as well.
Fantastic.
You can also find them at the Old Ways Twitch on the platform Twitch, because that is also a naming convention thing that had to occur. And this was a pleasure, and you can find me again at Twitch/Fiery Ashes, where I do a bunch of stuff, whether it's tarot readings for my community or playing video games or cooking or art or whatever the case may be. I have been playing Fallout on Thursdays as my character for our Fallout game that is announced but not out yet. So I've been playing as Bobby in the Mojave Desert, seeing what she would do if she didn't have our lovely companions that she's going to be playing with in our Old Ways game. But I'm there 4 to 6 times a week, and I pretty much live on the internet. So find me and we'll hang out. It'll be awesome.
Oh God, that leaves me. Fuck. Hello, I am Misfit _Playland. That is literally everywhere, and you can find my characters across multiple spaces on the internet, including the Old Ways, at Dubious Creatures, Somebody's Heroes, the Old Ways, and so many others. If you would like to keep up with any of that, please go ahead and give me a follow. And that is like literally the easiest way to keep up with me with what all I'm doing.
As for me, you can find me at most social media sites at Natural Juan or Too Legit to Crit. Come join us, give us a follow, and get in touch and just tell us about your gaming. I love talking about this hobby that I've embraced, so much so that we created a podcast about it. Other than that, if you but yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all you can find me on. I don't really do much other outside of this. But I just want to say thank you to my wonderful co-hosts this evening. I also want to say thank you to Dungeon Maestro. We've already done that, but we can't thank them enough. If you like what we do, subscribe to the channel. Give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to us, because it does kind of help get us out there. And most of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's taken time out of their busy day listening to us talk about tabletop role-playing games. Thank you very much, and good night.